Hey everyone, welcome to my channel, it's me GamerTorque, and with the 6th episode of Sword Art Online Alternative Gun Gale Online, we are finally getting started with the second arc of the series, the second Squad Jam. Episode 6 is more of an exposition heavy episode, so I'll be more focused on references to past episodes as well as hints for the future episodes, though the former shows up much more often here. While there was not even a single action scene in this episode, this is actually one of the more interesting episodes. You know, it's pretty easy making episodes where a pink lolly is annihilating a bunch of people with her P90. That does look interesting, but this episode, despite being all a build-up for the second arc, really kept me on the edge in terms of how the narrative was going forward. The first arc just throws you into the action, letting you learn the characters within the game. Second arc starts by giving you an idea who these characters are in real life, which is something we never got in the first arc aside from Karen. Anyways, the second arc of Alternative GGO starts with Len finding a brand new replacement for P-chan, which she promptly names P-chan. So do not worry, you will be seeing more of that P90 action in future episodes, and you may get more surprise appearances from P-chan herself, much like in episode 5. After the opening, we loop back around to the ending of episode 1, which is adapting the first chapter of Light Novel Volume 2, with Shink members watching a recording of Len before they come across in the tournament. To point out the obvious, the suitcase scene does not look as dramatic and amazing without the effects and angles used by the anime in episode 1, and here you can actually see how fast it all went and how nonchalant it actually was at that moment, which is nice attention to detail if you ask me. In episode 1, we were living those moments through the eyes of Len, but here, from a third-person perspective, it looks, much more ordinary. It's very similar to how you feel when clutching the win in a game, where everything is slower because you're incredibly focused on the game, and then you go back to your own recording to watch it and see how basic everything looks in hindsight. In this moment, we get some backstory to the Shink members, how they were using GGO to develop a team attitude that they were lacking. We finally get to learn their specific names in the anime, but I don't think anybody aside from Boss revealed their full real life names yet in the series. So in order of reveals, Sophie, played by Fujisawa Kana, the machine gun user we have seen in the episode, followed by Toma, aka Milana Sidorova. She is the only one from the group who is not Japanese. She is actually from Russia and is the truck driver Shink used during Squad Jam because she actually learned how to drive the truck, or any manual transmission car for that matter, back in Russia. You can also see her saying da in episode 5, which is Russian for yes, if you didn't know already. Next up we have Rosa, aka Noguchi Shiori, the second machine gun user in the team. Then we got Anaka Moe, playing Ana, the blonde sniper in the game, who got blasted by Len's grenade. Last but not least, we have Tanya, aka Kusunoki Risa, Len's first victim from Team Shink in the tournament. And of course, we know Nitobe Saki is the player behind Eva, aka Boss, the leader of Team Shink from the previous episode's post-credit scene. And then of course we get an explanation as to why Shink wanted to use games to practice being a team. Much like every other person we have come across in the series so far, Len, M, Pito Hui, all these characters are using VR to have a different reality where they are completely different people. Team Shink picked GGO for that sole reason, to distance themselves from their real life differences and become a team from the start, and then take this new mentality over to the real life. As I mentioned in my first video, Sixawa wanted to portray characters who are very different in real life and in VR. The core idea of the series is all about this duality, and this here is no exception. And that is also the reason why Karen finds Shink's situation very similar to hers, despite, being completely different. The girls essentially wanted to distance themselves from all their real life personalities to start fresh and then take that over to the real life, which is exactly what Karen did with Len, eventually coming to terms with how she looked like, or at the very least being slightly less uncomfortable about it. Going back to Hokkaido, we get more screen time with Miyu, aka Fukajiro, who you'll be seeing a lot more in the future episodes as a main character, but we'll get to that in a bit. After she asks about why Len parted ways with M, Karen explains what happened, and we get a little bit of foreshadowing here as to how M doesn't know his real name or address, which pays off within 2 minutes, but first we get a name drop from the main series. This meeting between Karen and Miyu takes place in February 24th of 2026, which is around the same time as Mother's Rosario, so it's only natural we get to hear a resident Alfheim Online player, Fukajiro, to have some experience with the famous Zekken. Mind you, this is after Sleeping Nights cleared floor 27 of the new Aincrad with Asuna, but before the time when Yuki's condition deteriorated. Miyu goes on to talk about how she lost to a player called Zekken in Alfheim Online, and we don't even need further explanations here. The only player in Alfheim Online known as Zekken is Konno Yuki. While the novels did not directly refer to the player as Zekken, Miyu refers to this player as the person with the 11-hit combo original sword skill, which we know is Yuki's Mother's Rosario OSS, so in both cases it is an obvious reference to that. Also, some people naturally were bugged by the official subtitles referring to Zekken as a male, but that is just laziness on the translator's side, not doing proper research and such. Miyu mentions the name Zekken only once and continues without using any pronouns in her sentences, whether he or she, which is possible in certain languages such as Japanese or in my case Turkish as well, but since English does not have what we call a hidden pronoun, the translator just lazily filled the blank spot with a male pronoun instead, so it's not an anime error, it's a translation error. And of course we get yet another Kanzaki Elsa name drop with a brand new song and a gigantic, not even subtle Sony product placement. This video is not sponsored by Sony. This is followed by the announcement of the second Squad Jam sponsored by a different individual than the first, which we know from the last week's recap episode is Pito Hui herself, which is something I'll talk about in a bit since there is a quite interesting detail to mention here that you probably didn't realize. But this is also where the previous comment by Miyu pays off, as M literally confronts Karen while she's getting back into her building back in Tokyo. Of course, in such a circumstance, Karen asks the question that's already on everybody's mind regarding how M found out her real identity and where she lived, which M dodges for the time being. But of course, breaking the news that somebody is going to die during Squad Jam 2, naturally that takes priority. While the question is a legitimate one, it is not answered in this episode, but there are more than enough hints for you to bring together to assume the correct answer. Just think back a little about the previous episodes. Similar to the main series where Kirito realized that some players made their identities and addresses public, there has been an instance in this series where Karen shared her real identity as well as her address on one specific occasion. I won't answer the question before the actual reveal, nor will I reply if you ask me in the comments if your assumption is correct, so feel free to speculate until it's time for the actual reveal. After M introduces himself as Asogi Goshi, which actually has a pretty nice backstory that wasn't explained in the anime, but feel free to pause the video right here and read this script from Sword Art Online Wikia. I still don't recommend outright visiting M's Wikia page, since that will spoil a lot for you. But in this instance, we get to see how crazy M actually is, despite looking very calm and cool on the outside, and his movements here, despite not showing any emotion, absolutely shows that. But his explanation ties back to episode 5, where he explained how obsessed Pito Hui was with a certain specific death game. He didn't mention the game by name, but I did mention this was referring to the original SAO, and now we get the actual confirmation for it. Up until now, Karen did still not properly believe how crazy Pito Hui was based on M's description in episode 5. But this finally does cross the line for her, as M explains that they would participate in the second Squad Jam and Pito would kill him and herself if she died or if they didn't win. As the explanation goes back to the topic of Sword Art Online, we get to learn that Pito was actually an SAO beta tester, but she couldn't participate during the launch window because she was busy with a lot of work. But I really love the visuals that aid Goshi's exposition here. It just fits the craziness of Pito Hui so perfectly with wild and unfocused images. It's a perfect representation of what was going on inside her, rather than what others could perceive from the outside. So it was a great decision, in my opinion, to go for such abstract images, rather than showing Pito crying her heart out in real life. But of course, showing her in real life would mean spoilers as well. More on that coming in a bit. At this instance, we get a vague cameo. When Goshi mentions the player killers in SAO, we get to see 3 figures on screen. While the figures are not exact representations, either due to legal reasons of 2 different studios animating the main series and alternative GGO, or due to public not knowing how characters in SAO actually look like one-to-one. But the prominent male figure here is obviously a Kirito cameo. It's a one-handed sword user with short hair and a coat that approximately matches the description of the Black Swordsman. You can even see that his gloves are not full gloves but rather fingerless gloves. The other 2 figures are very tricky and there are no definitive answers here. The figure on the right looks like it could be Asuna based on, having a long hair, part of that being crowned around her head and bound in the bag, but the lack of colors here, along with her weapon type not being shown, makes it impossible to come to a definitive conclusion. While her outfit vaguely resembles the Knights of Blood outfit, without a frontal shot or colors involved, it's really impossible to say for sure. As for the figure on the left, a short-haired female rapier user, does not really ring any bells to anybody I spoke with. The hair looks like it may be Argo, but since her choice of weaponry is mainly claws and throw-and picks, she's ruled out as a possibility. And while the ribbon in the back of the outfit may suggest that it is Lisbeth, once again, the weapon mismatch here rules her out as a possibility as well, leaving the third person completely unknown. And I'm glad Goshi makes a distinction between the player killers in SAO and Pito Hui, mentioning, yes, Pito Hui has admitted that she would kill players if she was in SAO, but she would kill the PKers, not the others. So while her morality is skewed indeed, even here, she's not described as a villain, and that is important for you to keep in mind. As I always said, Pito is not a villain, but you will see the craziness of her mind, which is where the second squad jam comes in, and this is the part where Karen, for the first time, realizes the reality of the situation. Back in episode 5, she still didn't believe M's words all that much, but here she starts to understand that he is actually telling the truth, hence M's reaction saying, "How many times have I told you that already?" in disbelief. The question is, of course, as Karen asks, why don't they just go to the police or a psychiatrist? While Goshi gives a personal answer that may or may not satisfy some of you, it's natural that not everybody can relate to the situation. Even Karen mentioning she doesn't comprehend his decision, as everyone experiences certain feelings in a different way. Keep in mind that Pito Hui is also a very successful businesswoman, as it's been already revealed by M earlier. Going to police or to a psychiatrist about it means everything inevitably goes public, and that is a disastrous career choice for a successful person. So whether you respect the decisions of an individual or you look from a business standpoint, it's obvious that such an option does not really exist. Next up, we get the absolutely hilarious scene where Goshi slams Karen to the vending machine, a cliche move in such instances, where a character confesses their love to the person they slammed against the wall. But instead, M effectively uses this chance to confess his love for Pito Hui instead. 3HC is once again on top of their game with the facial reactions, and Karen's face is just priceless here. And of course, the reason why Karen is the only person who can help Pito is by killing her in the game. I can hear some of you asking how that even makes sense. Remember that in episode 5, when M explained why he attempted to kill Len so that he could use a loophole in Pito's plan. Pito Hui is a person of her word. While she is crazy, she sticks by the promises she has made. You can see that on many occasions, how M is so certain that she would go through with her plans involving people dying in real life, as well as how M was certain that the loophole would work. If you play by the rules she established initially, it's all okay. And this is exactly what Goshi's plan is here. Remember the promise in episode 2 where I told you about this vow being integral to the plot of the second arc? Well, it's time for that. One day, Len and Pito Hui would fight, giving everything they had, and if Len won, Pito would meet her in real life. That was our promise to Len, and M knows Pito would do everything to deliver on that promise. And with that, Karen decides signing up for Squad Jam 2. And of course, once again, we get an amazing post-credit scene. I'll be honest, with how most anime use their post-credit scene with fluff, Alternative GGO does an amazing job at making me watch those, either by providing an amazing action scene, for example in the case of episode 4, or just outright a lovely scene for the fans, like in episode 5, the recap episode 5.5, and episode 6 right here. We see Karen thinking about who to go in with into Squad Jam 2, since, you need a team of at least 2 people, while Shink is a complete 6-person team and M is already taken by Pito. As a neat little detail, you can actually spot Karen's Airsoft P90 that I mentioned in the previous video in the background here. I really want to say we get the best scene in the series so far here, but Alternative GGO has so many of those scenes by now that I can't really rank them properly. But we get the perfect summary to the episode with Karen saying, "To save a deranged female company president, I need your help to kill her." Which just puts all the craziness of the situation on the table there. And of course, the person she's talking to is Shinohara Miyu, is more than ready to accept the invitation, as well as, a little bit crazy too, just like everybody else in this series. Before I end the episode, here's one piece of trivia for you. With Pito Hui being revealed as the sponsor of the second Squad Jam in the recap episode, both sponsors of Squad Jam have officially taken their place in the respective Squad Jam that they sponsored. According to a short story by Sixawa, we know his self-insert character that sponsored Squad Jam 1 actually participated in the tournament before being promptly taken out. And while it wasn't confirmed in the novels, with episode 5.5 implying Pito is indeed the sponsor behind Squad Jam 2, we know she is participating in the tournament that she sponsored herself as well. And one small note on the amazing voice actors. After the likes of Kirito, Asuna, Yuki and Yuna, Miyu just gives me more and more reasons to appreciate the sub over the dub. It's not that I'm telling original is better than the dub, but the main point is, original VAs are picked as perfect fits for the characters, and their voices are what makes these characters complete. This becomes especially obvious with characters I mentioned above. These voice actors are effectively the characters themselves, but in the localized versions, the characters do go through certain changes for the localized culture. This was especially obvious with Yuki for me. Again, I'm not saying it was bad or anything, in fact, it was great for what it was. The problem is, the Yuki in the dub does not really come off as the same Yuki in the sub. The words she uses and naturally the tone and the attitude that comes with it is naturally very different. So, while this is kind of a tangent that barely has anything to do with this episode, Miyu's crazy and varied tone just gave me a reason to talk about it, which just makes the character for me. But hey, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, share and hit that subscribe and bell icons to get notified. If you have questions, feel free to ask them in the comments. You can check the links I share in the description to get more thorough information about the episodes, but spoiler warning, do not click anywhere else on the Wikia. Stay limited to the links I shared in the description. I cherry-picked the spoiler-free pages for you, but if you step outside, it's a wild place. Chances are you will encounter spoilers. If you enjoy the content, please do consider supporting me on patreon.com/gamertorque and help me improve the quality of these videos by using actual clips from the anime. As always, huge thanks to Gshimenas from the SAO Wikia for helping me with all this information. You can find him on Twitter at Gshimenas and on the SAO Wikia, and of course you can find me on Twitter at gamertorque95 and on facebook.com/gamertorque. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.